Chapter 61. Such a proactive achievement is rare. Who dares bully my brother? Roared the thief boss with soaring bravado. He ordered his underling to call the other party over. If his guy was being picked on, how could he ever establish his authority without setting things straight? Seeing their boss's backing, the little thief immediately straightened his back. He kicked open the door next door and shouted, "My boss says that if you think bullying me will just be brushed off, you're mistaken. He wants to have a word with you. Whoever doesn't come is a wimp." The constables were startled. In over a decade of service, they had never seen anyone so brazenly provoke them. Captain Wei shook his head with a smile. Being the most experienced, he had seen it all, just a bunch of short-sighted guys provoking him. Easy cases like these practically fall into a constable's lap a few times in a career. Who's afraid of whom? Let's go. The thieves rubbed their hands together, eager to show the other side what they were made of. As newcomers, they couldn't rely solely on their reputation for stealing before joining the demon cult. It was time for a dazzling debut. Then the thieves saw a group of constables storming in, each carrying an official blade and sporting an identity badge at the waist. The constables' eyes widened when they saw the table loaded with gold, silver, jewels, rare medicinal herbs, and spirit stones and spirit crystals. These items looked so familiar. Wasn't there someone who just reported them as lost? Constables. Captain Wei. Thieves? I say, do you really believe these were just picked up from the roadside? Captain Wei had never seen such a scene. It was the first time he encountered a criminal who willingly walked into the trap. The little thief, still unaware of what was happening, kept shouting for the boss, "Boss, show them what you've got." While shouting, he boasted, "Look at my big brother's thinning hair. Every time he kills someone, he plucks out one hair. In the martial world, they call him Ghost's Dread. Look at the one with the eye patch. This is my second brother. That lost eye was blinded during a fight with a top expert in the late stage of Foundation establishment, and that expert wasn't any better. My second brother ended up blinding both his eyes. In the martial world, he's known as Die Hard Second Brother. Look at my third brother's leg. When he went to the palace to steal something, he was surrounded by over 100 Imperial guards and lost a leg to escape. In the martial world, he's called Grass Flyer." At that, the thief boss, second, and third all kicked out at once, knocking the little guy over. "You little runt, you talk too much. I heard you just said that whoever doesn't come is a wimp?" Captain Wei sneered with a grim smile. "It's you guys who forced me to work night shifts in a row." I'm a wimp, stuttered the thief boss, trembling with fear. The thieves didn't dare to move further. Seeing the door blocked by the constables, they crashed into the wall and bolted, shouting as a group toward the main hall. These thieves specialized in speed, but their ability in a direct fight was rather mediocre, not to mention, none had even reached the Foundation establishment stage. The boss had only cultivated to the 9th level of Qi. "You guys, escape through the front door, the rest, follow me out the back door." Lu Yang noticed the commotion over there and quickly figured out what was going on, finding it rather amusing. Thieves and constables separated by just a wall. Are the thieves really provoking the constables? Wait a minute, they're planning to escape through the backyard. What if the Changguei are spotted by the constables? Almost immediately, Lu Yang realized the problem. If the Changguei are eliminated, then who will grill the skewers? How will this barbecue restaurant keep operating, and how will we monitor Qing Yuanhao? The thief boss saw Lu Yang standing dazed at the back door and, seemingly terrified, reached out as if to hurl him away. Lu Yang, carrying a basin of lump soup, saw the menacing approach and his hand trembled, sending the soup splattering everywhere. Not expecting such a turn of events, the thief boss quickly raised a layer of spiritual energy shield to block the soup. That brief delay was all it took. Captain Wei whipped out a coil of iron chains which, like a snake, wrapped around the thief boss. "Go, arrest the rest of them. Today's meal was well worth it," declared Captain Wei. Shaking off the gloom, he felt invigorated, as if the world had suddenly opened up. The troublesome thief gang, which had been a headache for days, was finally apprehended, a true blessing. Patting Lu Yang on the shoulder, Captain Wei laughed. "If you hadn't blocked him just now, the kid would have really gotten away. For your act of bravery, just wait. I'll bring you a banner tomorrow." Lu Yang quickly waved his hand, saying no need, but he couldn't hold back Captain Wei's excitement, who insisted on giving him one. Earlier, the rough and tumble between the constables and the thieves had been so intense that it damaged the wall and left the entire main hall in a chaotic mess, filled with dust. The diners had to leave early, but at least they got to witness the constables catching the criminals firsthand. It wasn't a total loss. This barbecue restaurant is such a great spot. Next time, the constables can catch criminals even while sitting down. It was totally worth coming. Even with all the money in the world, you couldn't see a show this good. This place must be a hotspot for luck. To have such booming business in a short time, even if the food is good, that level of frenzy is just too exaggerated. There's definitely some luck at play. Today we saw it all, the fact that the constables caught someone proves it. Looks like I'll have to come here often, come a few more times and maybe I'll get a bit of that luck too. Right, next time we should all come together. Listening to the fading chatter, Lu Yang couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding about the future of this barbecue restaurant. It was destined to become big and powerful. Tomorrow, when I deliver your banner, I'll also include the money for repairing the wall. Captain Wei waved at Lu Yang and, with those words, escorted the unlucky thieves away. Lu Yang stood at the door and sighed. Suddenly, he noticed that Qin Yuanhao had left the residence once again. Brother Lu, Qin Yuanhao has left the residence again, came Manga's message from the second floor. Ever diligent, he cared nothing about what was happening downstairs, always keeping an eye on Qin Yuanhao's movements. I saw him. You and Jingzhou repair the broken wall, I'll go track Qin Yuanhao. Alright. Lu Yang used his shrinking technique to catch up with Qin Yuanhao once again. Trailing behind Meng Jingzhou's side, Lu Yang's magical talent is truly impressive. I've followed him for ages and haven't learned a single thing. And I always feel that the spells he teaches are related to spatial magic. Is it just my imagination? Meng Jingzhou didn't dwell on it. Lu Yang's magical talent could only be described as outrageous. If you expect to learn magic just by following him, you're simply daydreaming. His own single spirit route wasn't even good enough, imagine the others. Lu Yang followed Qin Yuanhao for a long distance. Not paying attention to Meng Jingzhou's remarks, he noticed that this time Qin Yuanhao walked with an imposing air, humming a cheerful tune as if he were about to do something significant. Qin Yuanhao arrived at a large mansion and, instead of knocking, cast a spell on the door. Before long, a tall, skinny man emerged. Upon meeting, he asked, "Is it time?" "It's today. I've been preparing for today for a whole half-month. Isn't everyone saying the same? This time, we're going to go all out. I've been cooped up for too long. Once we pull this off, you must help me spread the word. I'll show everyone not to underestimate me any longer." At that, Qin Yuanhao revealed a trace of a cruel smile. Absolutely. The skinny man was famously known as the Big Mouth of Yanjiang Duo. The two spoke in a manner that others couldn't understand, laughing with a somewhat cold humor. Lu Yang grew wary, not knowing what the two intended to do. They walked into a busy district and one building stood out, the most eye-catching, decorated in dazzling, colorful designs. Qin Yuanhao and the skinny man walked in and were warmly received. Lu Yang looked up at the plaque. Shi Lu. Chapter 62, The Location of the Stronghold. 10 minutes later, Qin Yuanhao and the slender tall man left the brothel with impassive expressions, completely devoid of the excitement they had felt upon entering. Lu Yang scratched his temple. They're leaving that quickly? At the door, the madam handed Qin Yuanhao and the slender tall man each a slip of paper. After reading them, both immediately disposed of the notes. "Brother Qin, the Tua Master has something for me. He wants me to visit one of the branch strongholds. I'll head off first. And the Tua Master also has some matters for me to handle. Let's part here. Don't forget to spread the word about my trip to the brothel." "No problem." The two parted ways in front of the brothel, and Lu Yang's interest was piqued. He chose to follow the slender tall man. Since the slender tall man and Qin Yuanhao were of similar cultivation, neither noticed Lu Yang lurking in the shadows. As they moved away, pedestrians and buildings gradually became scarce. Soon they were traversing barren mountains and wild lands, completely deserted. The slender tall man, evidently very familiar with the area, strolled leisurely along the winding mountain path. After about 15 minutes, he stopped in front of a stone wall. This place lay at the border between Yanjiang County and another prefecture. In theory, it belonged to Yanjiang County, yet historical claims meant both sides had jurisdiction. Precisely because both had grounds for claim, neither bothered to take control. After all, there was nothing valuable here to dispute over. He knocked on the wall, 3 long knocks followed by 1 short knock, and while murmuring an incantation, the wall transformed, flowing like water. The slender tall man then stepped into the wall and vanished from sight. Lu Yang caught the words, "Immortal, reborn from death, parting the clouds to reveal the sun, everlasting in the world." Is this some sort of Dongtian? Lu Yang's eyes narrowed in surprise. A Dongtian is a space created by a cultivator adept in spatial magic. The higher one's cultivation, the more complete the space. Generally speaking, a transforming god cultivator can establish his own space. Some choose to live in their Dongtian in solitude, others use it as a tomb, living alone. Countless transforming god cultivators have existed throughout the ages, and that's not to mention the 3 major realms above, refining void, fusion, and tribulation crossing. When a cultivator dies, his Dong-Eon remains, leaving behind numerous relic spaces scattered across the central continent. Since most never reveal the location or activation method of their Dongtian, people must rely on luck to find those left behind. No one knows how many Dongshans still lie dormant today. Senior sister once said that with the coming of the Great Era, more and more Dongshans are being discovered, allowing many to seize their chance to soar. This Dongtian before him must be one left behind by a predecessor, discovered and repurposed by the demon cult. Lu Yang did not rush to follow, he chose instead to remain hidden in the ground, waiting for the slender tall man to emerge again. Still, Lu Yang felt uneasy. After all, this was the Yanjiang Tua, the demon cult's stronghold, where countless experts might be lurking. Simply hiding underground might not be enough. With that in mind, Lu Yang moved to a spot just far enough away to see the entrance to the stronghold, shrank his body to the size of an inch, and used the Mangzu concealment technique provided by Mangu to hide himself. After about an hour, a man wearing a mask emerged from the stone wall, with the slender tall man trailing behind him. It appeared that the masked man held a higher status than the slender tall man. The masked man sensed something amiss. He released his spiritual sense to scan the surroundings, leaving no spot, not even the ground, unchecked. "Come out now, I've found you. Don't think you're hidden well, if you come out now, I might let you live," he said coolly. "Still not coming out? Don't think that I, the Tua Master, am soft-hearted. I'll count to 3, if you still refuse, don't blame me for not giving you another chance. 3, 2, 1, go die." A surge of power coalesced in the Tua Master's palm as he struck in a certain direction, unleashing a thunderous roar. "Tua Master, what's wrong?" the slender tall man asked respectfully. The Tua Master shook his head. "I've always felt as if someone were watching me. I fainted, but there was no response, perhaps it was just my imagination." Cold sweat broke out on Lu Yang's forehead. He had just entertained the thought of leaping from the ground to confront the Tua Master, a desperate bid for survival. Fortunately, his will was strong, and he managed to suppress the impulse. He trusted that the Mangzu concealment technique would keep him hidden. Lu Yang sensed that the Tua Master's spiritual scan had brushed past him, but he assumed the Tua Master regarded him as nothing more than a rock and paid no heed. If the Tua Master had truly discovered him, there would have been no countdown, immediate action would have been taken. Luckily, the Mangzu concealment technique is excellent. As long as I don't move, I won't be discovered, Lu Yang thought. This Tua Master should be of the Golden Core stage. How are the preparations for the selection in 10 days coming along? Everything's ready. We're just waiting for our fellow cultivators to come here in 10 days, pass the selection, and join us. Very well. I hope this time we can recruit a few more demon path prodigies, then headquarters will surely take Yanjiang Tua more seriously. The two continued walking and soon disappeared from Lu Yang's sight. He remained utterly still, terrified of exposing himself. The Golden Core stage is indeed formidable. Lu Yang waited another half-hour, worried that the Tua Master might suddenly return out of suspicion. After that time passed, the Tua Master did not reappear. Time to go. Lu Yang vanished into the ground and left. This venture proved quite fruitful. Not only did he learn the location of Yanjiang Tua, but he also confirmed that the selection would take place here. "Tell me, Ghost Dread, what's with your hair? I heard that every time you kill someone, you pluck out a hair." Captain Wei, legs crossed, asked as the thieves sat in a tight formation across from him, trembling. "And no, it's not like that. It's just that being the boss isn't easy, and managing the team is tough. My underlings cause trouble everywhere, and the pressure makes my hair fall out. And you, diehard second brother, didn't you get into a brawl with a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator? I heard you blinded both his eyes, and he blinded one of yours." "My eyes are fine. Wearing an eye patch gives me an air of authority. When you're out in the martial world, you need something to talk about. And you, grass flyer, word is you tried to steal in the palace. By my conservative estimate, you'd be locked up for life, or even face death by Lingqi." Thief third brother cried out, "It's a misunderstanding, sir. I didn't steal. I just couldn't repay my debt, and the creditor broke one of my legs to cancel the debt." Captain Wei yawned, thinking each of them would be involved in a major case. Turns out it was just this. "Captain, I confess I've robbed 16 households." Waving his hand dismissively, Captain Wei said, "Hold on. First, tell me what brings all of you here to Yanjiang County, all at once?" Well, the thief boss hesitated, weighing the pros and cons of speaking up. Pointing to the torture chamber at the back, Captain Wei said, "See those instruments of torture? If you don't start talking, I'll let these do it for you." The devices were stained with dark, dried blood, making them all the more terrifying. The thieves gulped and began confessing in a hurry. "Aye, aye." They barely uttered 2 words before falling silent. Had anyone approached from behind, they would have found their necks pierced with cowhair fine needles, needles laced with potent poison. "Assassins!" Captain Wei, ever the most experienced constable, immediately reacted. He dashed out of the room to search for any sign of an assassin. But outside, there wasn't a soul in sight. Inside the interrogation chamber, the shadows seemed to flow as if alive, almost as if they had let out a few low chuckles before disappearing without a trace. Chapter 63. Be careful, the opponent is very eccentric. Captain Wei, you're here so early. Coming this early means there won't be any barbecue skewers. Lu Yang teased with a smile at the doorway. It was still morning when Captain Wei arrived at the barbecue restaurant, accompanied by 2 constables and a banner. Here, as promised yesterday, the banner has come for you, Captain Wei said as he brandished the banner in the middle of the street, deliberately displaying it. The banner read, "Acting in bravery, promoting righteousness." This act indeed attracted a crowd of onlookers. The 2 constables hung the banner on the wall directly facing the main door of the hall, making it very conspicuous. Originally, there had been 2 Changguei serving skewers in the main hall, but Lu Yang had sent them to the backyard ahead of time so they wouldn't be seen. Lu Yang then carried over 3 cups of tea and casually asked, "Did those stupid thieves manage to say anything? Who are these outsiders who dare to provoke the famed iron-faced captain?" "Ah, don't even mention it, they didn't get anything out of them," replied Captain Wei as he picked up his tea, filled with boiling water and tea leaves, and downed it in one gulp. A foundation establishment cultivator isn't afraid of scalding hot water. What happened exactly? Those foolish thieves simply lack willpower. They got scared and spilled everything. They were about to explain that when a group of cultivators arrived in Yanjiang County, they were suddenly killed by assassins from who knows where, with 9 cowhair poison needles plunged into their necks, killing them instantly. The room was sealed and nobody knew how the assassins got in. At that moment, I instinctively went outside to search for the assassin but found nothing. Later, I figured out that the assassin must have mastered some shadow-related magic. As soon as we started questioning, he killed someone and, taking advantage of my running outside, slipped away along the shadows. If only I had blocked the door back then, the assassin wouldn't have escaped. I only regret that in my anger, I never thought of that. With that, Captain Wei, fuming, downed the tea meant for the other 2 constables. The 2 constables looked at him in bewilderment, they hadn't even had a sip yet. Lu Yang smiled as he saw off the irate Captain Wei and the 2 unlucky constables who didn't even get to drink any tea. Meng Jingzhou's telepathic voice came through. According to yesterday's plan, we killed Qin Yuanhao? After returning last night, Lu Yang had recounted what he had seen. Now that he knew the location of Yanjiang Tua, Qin Yuanhao no longer had any reason to live. The 3 spent the entire night devising an ambush plan for Qin Yuanhao. Specifically, Lu Yang and Meng Jingzhou discussed the plan while Manga listened in. "Not to worry, I have a new idea. Let's prepare a bit more." A man in a black robe lightly knocked on Qin Yuanhao's residence. After a long while, no one answered. The man in black simply waited. Finally, the main door opened, but there was no one at the entrance, as if it had opened automatically. The door swung open like the gaping maw of a demon, ready to swallow the unsuspecting. The man in black walked calmly into the mansion. As soon as he entered, the door slammed shut with a bang and a bolt was inserted, locking him inside. He then took out a set of bone cards and announced loudly, "Is Qin Yuanhao here? I am here on behalf of my master to pay my respects." "I thought I knew who it was. It's a Changguei under Tiger Brothers' command," came a voice from behind the Changguei. Suddenly, Qin Yuanhao appeared. The Changguei hadn't even noticed which direction he had come from, as if he had appeared out of thin air. "What do you want from me?" "My master has been thinking for some time. He believes your words have merit," leaning against a big tree for shade. "He wishes to join Yanjiang Tua, but he's also a bit worried, so he wants to invite you to Song Mountain for a chat." Qin Yuanhao gave the Changguei a wry look and said, "Oh, Tiger Brother hasn't replied yet. I thought he had no intention of joining Yanjiang Tua." The Changguei forced a smile and replied, "My master needed a bit more time to decide." Qin Yuanhao's expression darkened as he grabbed the Changguei by the neck. "Dare to play tricks in front of me? Tell me who sent you." With Tiger Brothers' character, there's no way he would voluntarily join Yanjiang Tua. The Changguei was shocked and repeatedly insisted that no one had sent him. Increasing the pressure with his hand until the Changguei almost went limp, Qin Yuanhao finally forced the truth out. "A few days ago, some clueless cultivators entered Song Mountain and accidentally discovered my master's traces. My master killed them. While tidying up their belongings, he noticed that their sects were extraordinary. Among their elders were Golden Core stage experts. My master is afraid that these Golden Core cultivators might come looking for him, so he got scared. Then he remembered your invitation, Qin Senior, and after persuading the mistress, decided to join Yanjiang Tua. That's why he sent me here to invite you over to discuss the details." Having gotten the answer he wanted, Qin Yuanhao casually tossed the Changguei aside. "That's more like it." No longer suspecting the Changguei, Qin Yuanhao followed him to Song Mountain. "Qin Senior, my master is waiting for you not far ahead," the Changguei said respectfully. My master doesn't like having eavesdroppers around. Please, go on. Qin Yuanhao ignored the Changue and walked on alone. The forest was dense and quiet, as if long abandoned by humans. Distant birdsong only added to the tranquility. In front, a 4-meter-long tiger demon sat cross-legged. On a stone table lay 2 cups of tea, a scene set to welcome a guest. Qin Yuanhao couldn't help but relax his guard and quickened his pace a little. Suddenly, his cultivation technique activated automatically, forming a thin membrane over his body that deflected an attack from an unknown source, leaving only a shallow bloodline on his neck. Ambush. Ever experienced, Qin Yuanhao abruptly stepped back and saw, at the level of his neck, an almost invisible fine line stretched across the air. This hanging noodle really is effective, it nearly cut off my head, came a gleeful voice from a tree on his right. It was Meng Jingzhou. What Qin Yuanhao saw wasn't an actual fine line at all, but the dragon beard noodles that Lu Yang had purchased from the dining hall. According to the senior noodle seller, this kind of noodle is deadly when used in an ambush, the most suitable tool for setting traps. Had it not been for Qin Yuanhao's special cultivation technique, which provided automatic defense, his head would have been severed by now. You dare try to ambush me? Qin Yuanhao glared fiercely at the tiger demon. This wasn't about inviting him over to discuss joining Yanjiang Tuo, it was all a trap from beginning to end. Unexpectedly, the tiger demon had long vanished. The ground beneath Qin Yuanhao was soft, and a Qifeng sword swung toward his groin in one swift blow. Fortunately, Qin Yuanhao reacted quickly. His right knee collided with the Qifeng sword, deflecting it and protecting his most vital parts. Seeing that things were going badly, he turned and ran. He was completely unprepared while his opponent was thoroughly ready. How could he possibly fight back? It must be someone from the demon path, Qin Yuanhao asserted. That sword strike was utterly underhanded. What righteous person would attack like that? Mangu, who had been waiting behind him for a long time, swung a tree and smashed it down. Qin Yuanhao was sent flying far away. Why didn't it feel solid? Mangu wondered aloud. He clearly hit his target, but it felt as if he'd only struck a sheet of paper. Qin Yuanhao was flung far away, yet his momentum remained impressive and he appeared uninjured. Watch out, their cultivation technique is very bizarre. Manga shouted. A few juniors still think they can take me on? They're 100 years too early. Qin Yuanhao laughed heartily. As long as no one figures out the true nature of my cultivation technique, no one will ever catch me. Lu Yang calmly leaped into the air and, using his identity jade pendant, called out toward Qin Yuanhao. Collect. Qin Yuanhao froze for a moment, not understanding what was happening. The jade pendant looked like some kind of alternative storage ring, but a storage ring couldn't possibly collect a person. Then Qin Yuanhao noticed that Lu Yang and the other two were looking at him strangely. He slowly lowered his head and realized he was completely naked. His clothes had vanished without warning. His clothes had been absorbed into the jade pendant, leaving him wearing nothing but a pair of underpants as he trembled in midair. Damn it, you're the strange ones. Chapter 64, Shadow. Out of a sense of decency, Lu Yang didn't take away all of Qin Yuanhao's clothes. He left a pair of underwear to cover his shame. The storage ring, a magical artifact widely circulated among cultivators. The Luodi Jin Xianxia has conducted several surveys on the most popular magical artifact, and the storage ring was voted #1 by a large margin. For traveling across the continent and storing treasures as well as personal savings, it is an indispensable artifact for home. Moreover, the storage ring is very inexpensive. Even cultivators in the qi condensation stage can afford one, though its internal space is rather limited. Every year, many qi condensation stage cultivators purchase storage rings, and the Luodi Jin Xianxia earns a fortune from this major revenue stream. They even launch an improved version every year, mainly featuring a more attractive exterior, while the internal storage remains unchanged. For most cultivators, the first magical artifact they own is the storage ring, a purchase imbued with great sentimental value. Regardless of whether one follows the orthodox path or the demonic path, everyone uses storage rings. Naturally, Qin Yuanhao is no exception. This, then, is Qin Yuanhao's impression of the storage ring. He's lived for decades and has never heard of anyone using a storage ring to store an enemy's clothes. Is that even reasonable? In fact, it is quite logical. Storage rings cannot store items imbued with inherent spiritual essence or that already belong to someone, such as living creatures, ghosts, or spiritual treasures. Clearly, Qin Yuanhao's clothes don't fall into that category. And luckily for him, as a proud denizen of the demonic path, his sense of shame had long since blown away. He can fight just as well even if he's wearing nothing but his underpants. Then he saw Meng Jingzhou take out the luing ball. What the hell? Which sect are you from and what deep grudge do you have against me? Qin Yuanhao roared, convinced that Lu Yang and his two companions were fellow cultivators from another sect. Even if they claimed to be from the orthodox path, he wouldn't believe it now. He just couldn't understand. Although he made enemies, he always acted within limits and never forged mortal hatreds. Meng Jingzhou and Mangu exchanged strange looks at Lu Yang, as though they hadn't expected him to devise such an extraordinary method of attack. When dealing with crooked, unorthodox ways, there's no need to follow the rules of chivalry. Attack together. Lu Yang called to his companions. The three of them launched their assault in unison. A half-step golden core tiger demon would be finished by such a blow, let alone Qin Yuanhao, who was merely in the late foundation establishment stage. They had even considered challenging Qin Yuanhao one-on-one. As geniuses, they were confident in their ability to fight above their level. But to be on the safe side, they joined forces. Casting aside any sense of shame, Qin Yuanhao leapt into the fray with all three. Sword light flowed like water, splashed across the battlefield like ink, and with an air of heroic grandeur, Qin Yuanhao was forced to retreat repeatedly, too cautious to engage head-on. Meanwhile, Meng Jingzhou and Mangu unleashed a flurry of punches, like mountains crashing down. Their blows pounded into Qin Yuanhao's chest, making him cough up blood incessantly. In response, with a flip of his palm, 3 cowhair poison needles materialized at his fingertips and stabbed into the chests of the 3 attackers. Yet, to his astonishment, the trio pressed on as if nothing had happened. Their sword and fist attacks showed no sign of weakening. If anything, they grew fiercer as the battle raged. Lu Yang had long anticipated that they might resort to poison, so he had already taken his antidote pills in advance. Strictly speaking, the so-called antidote pill shouldn't really be called that. It's more accurately a detox pill. Its principle is to encapsulate the poison before it takes effect, allowing it to be expelled through sweat. Since poison works from the moment it enters the body, one can hardly speak of detoxification. Qin Yuanhao thought grimly that things were not looking good. The underhanded techniques he relied on couldn't be fully executed, and even if he managed to use them, they paled in comparison to the venomous methods of his foes. Meng Jingzhou's muscles bulged and his veins stood out, his fists seemingly growing larger with each blow, moving so quickly that Qin Yuanhao could scarcely react. Then, something strange happened once more. Meng Jingzhou's punch landed with such crushing force that even a late foundation establishment cultivator would be left battered or dead, yet Qin Yuanhao remained completely unaffected. A wry laugh escaped him. He had warned before that these people would never be a match for him. After their exchange, Lu Yang finally uncovered the secret of Qin Yuanhao's technique. With a swift sword swing, light leapt forth, and his sword chi arched like an unyielding rainbow, utterly destructive. That strike wasn't aimed at an ordinary target, it cleaved through Qin Yuanhao's very shadow. Damn it! Qin Yuanhao cried out in pain. As I thought, it's those bandits you killed last night. Your weakness is your shadow. Lu Yang recalled that after leaving the brothel, Qin Yuanhao had received orders from the Tua master to act, presumably to wipe out the bandit gang. With his greatest reliance exposed, Qin Yuanhao no longer wished to continue the fight. His body vanished and his shadow darted rapidly along the ground. Even if he couldn't overcome his opponents, he was fully confident he could escape. After all, no matter how sharp a sword is, can it really sever a shadow? You 3 brats, I'll remember you. Just wait and see. You'll have to suffer my endless revenge. Ha 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 ha. Qin Yuanhao crowed, convinced he held all the cards, laughing maniacally. Suddenly, a beam of white light shone upon his shadow, and in an instant, Qin Yuanhao let out a heart-wrenching scream, as if a chunk of his flesh had been forcibly torn away. The light concentration array, a simple formation that absorbs and then emits light, was easy to master. Almost anyone can learn it, though generally considered rather mediocre. Yet in this instance, its effect was extraordinary. With no other option, Qin Yuanhao forced his body out from within his shadow to block the white light. The gap in his shadow vanished, and his injuries began to mend. It appears you came well prepared. But so what? Did you really think that a mere light concentration array could hurt me? He taunted. Qin Yuanhao sneered. Don't you know that the stronger the light, the stronger the shadow? Unfazed, Lu Yang calmly deployed additional light concentration arrays and retorted with a laugh, then have you ever heard of the no-shadow lamp? Qin Yuanhao hesitated. He didn't know what a no-shadow lamp was, but upon hearing Lu Yang's words, a sense of ominous foreboding welled up inside him. Lu Yang didn't waste time explaining the principle during the fight. Instead, over a dozen beams of white light struck Qin Yuanhao. His shadow began to sizzle as Qin Yuanhao either tried to expose his body to block the light or shrank into his shadow. Nothing could halt the process. His shadow gradually faded until it became so faint that it was no longer discernible to the naked eye. The principle of the no-shadow lamp isn't to make a shadow vanish, but rather to diminish it to near nothingness. Qin Yuanhao roared and attempted to emerge from his nearly invisible shadow, but his true form could no longer hide within it. Then sword light descended from the sky like a flying rainbow from beyond, sudden and overwhelming, piercing through Qin Yuanhao's body. This was the moment Lu Yang and his companions had been waiting for. Phew, that was close. I nearly let him get away. Meng Jingzhou sighed with relief as he saw Qin Yuanhao lie dead. If he had escaped, all their days of preparation would have been for nothing. Meng Jingzhou had been confident that their preparations were sufficient. Qin Yuanhao would be unable to escape. Who would have thought that his technique was linked to his shadow, making him extraordinarily difficult to trap? With a mischievous grin, Meng Jingzhou nudged Lu Yang's shoulder and said, "Luckily, before we set off, you mentioned that you'd prepare a light concentration array. It was all luck. I only suspected his technique was related to his shadow, though I had no concrete evidence," Lu Yang replied. "But don't get too excited yet. We can celebrate once we've disposed of the corpse and erased all traces." At Lu Yang's suggestion, the three burned Qin Yuanhao's body until it became an unrecognizable dry corpse, tossed it into the Tiger Demon's cave, and then blew up the cave's entrance. In this way, unless someone deliberately searches the mountains, no one will ever find this place. Chapter 65, Examiner. Lu Yang held Qin Yuanhao's storage ring and, after several attempts, shook his head in regret. What a pity, the storage ring can only be opened by Qin Yuanhao himself. Even if we have it in our hands, it's useless. Forcing it open would disperse its internal space, making it even harder to retrieve. Let's go take a look at his place, maybe we'll find something useful. Lu Yang signaled the other two to follow him. The Changguo who had tricked Qin Yuanhao into coming trailed behind. Mangu, feeling that the Changguo had done a decent job, decided to reward him with 2 skewers of lamb. In theory, if the lamb skewers are burnt to a crisp, the Changguo can at least have something to eat. As for whether the Changguo ends up with well-cooked lamb or charred skewers, that remains to be seen. Qin Yuanhao's residence was sparsely decorated. Living alone here made the place feel empty and lifeless. The three of them entered a practice room. Apart from a jade statue, the room contained only 2 rows of bookshelves crammed with numerous cultivation manuals. The jade statue had a blurred face, wearing a long robe, its gender indiscernible. This must be the embodiment of the immortal sex faith, the immortal. Meng Jingzhou circled the statue twice. Although the material of this statue was far superior to that of ordinary statues, its likeness was rather poor. After all, which household doesn't pride itself on having lifelike statues? Water voiding technique, introduction to formations, sword play, disassembling sword techniques, these are all rather common methods easily found on the first floor of our scripture repository. Lu Yang's hand glided over the back of one of the books. He relished the uneven texture beneath his fingertips. Common methods to please your superior, the human heart, scheming and intrigue, all sorts of miscellaneous nonsense. Lu Yang casually picked up a book. Indeed, it was Common Methods to Please Your Superior. Even its corners were bent, clearly having been leafed through many times by Qin Yuanhao. Method 1. Become part of your superior's family. Depending on your age and abilities, you may target your superior himself or his children. Qin Yuanhao scribbled in the margin, "The Tua master never removes his mask, his identity is unknown, his gender unknown, unapproachable, and incapable of marriage." Method 2. Offer treasures. Ostentatious treasures make the giver appear just as flashy and unlikable. It's better to give your superior a low-key yet expensive gift. Qin Yuanhao's note read, "I lent the Tua master money to buy a jade chair, hoping it will work." Method 3. Cultivate shared interests. Pay close attention to your superior's hobbies and develop the same interests. Qin Yuanhao added, "The Tua master's interest is fishing. I go fishing by the river with him and I catch more fish than he does. Hope he doesn't get jealous of my talent." Method 4. Method 5. Qin Yuanhao clearly put a lot of effort into currying favor with the Tua master, though his results were rather underwhelming. "It seems even the inner circles of the demon sect aren't easy to navigate," Lu Yang remarked with a wry laugh. Thanks largely to Qin Yuanhao's marginal notes, Lu Yang now had a basic understanding of the Tua master and the various administrators. Within Yanzhong Tua, the hierarchy from bottom to top is ordinary disciples, administrators, and then the Tua master. Ordinary disciples are numerous, ranging from the Qi condensation stage to the foundation establishment stage, and they rarely get access to the immortal sex secrets. Only foundation establishment cultivators who pass the examinations can become administrators. The entire Yanzhong Tua has 12 administrators. With Qin Yuanhao dead, there are now only 11. The Tua master's identity is unknown. His cultivation is at the golden core stage, though the specifics are uncertain, and he likes fishing. In addition, the three found some scattered spirit stones and a few manuals on techniques that didn't look like they were studied by orthodox cultivators, for example, hypnosis and bedroom techniques, which were not worth mentioning. Let's go, we need to prepare for the demon sex examination in 9 days. At the border of Yanjiang County, countless taciturn cultivators moved stealthily through the deep forest. Dappled light fell upon their expressionless faces, lending the scene an eerie quality. Each cultivator kept a wide berth from the others, remaining ever vigilant and secretly gathering momentum. The moment one let their guard down, they would launch a surprise attack to eliminate competition. They had all learned the location of the examination through various channels and rushed here, these demon sect affiliates. Under constant pressure from the orthodox forces, their living space was continually shrinking. To obtain more resources, they had to rely on larger organizations, and Yanjiang Tua became their primary target. In the past, one could only join the demon sect through the recommendation of an administrator, which required bribery. This time was different, everyone had a chance. It was an unprecedented opportunity in 30 years to join the demon sect. About an hour before the examination was to begin, various independent demon cultivators began to arrive in droves. Look, could that be Chi Su Long, who slaughtered an entire family overnight, sparing not even a single rat, and then vanished in plain sight? A burly man held a leg bone from an unknown demon beast. Like a wild man, his skin was a bronzed hue, his muscles bulging, both arms scarred, and he grinned, bearing 2 teeth resembling those of a wolf. Chi Su Long was extremely notorious among the independent demon cultivators. His methods were arrogant and overbearing. Having survived multiple slayings and even upgraded his abilities in battle, he was said to become ever more formidable with each fight, invincible in countless battles. Chi Su Long, I didn't expect you to show up here too, a pale-faced scholar teased, fanning himself with a paper fan. Chi Su Long snorted coldly, Ha, Shinjini, what is a teacher like you doing here instead of teaching in a school? Nobody here needs your lessons. What? Is he referring to Shinjini, the teacher who runs a school to teach people how to kill efficiently? Someone, upon hearing Chi Su Long address the scholar as Shinjini, murmured, stepping back a little. Shinjini indeed was a teacher, but he didn't teach the Confucian classics. He taught methods of assassinating people quickly and covertly. He had trained countless assassins and was feared even among independent demon cultivators. Don't be fooled by Shinjini's gentle smile and frail appearance. In truth, if provoked, he would kill in a manner that defied comprehension. Assassins? They're nothing but a bunch of cowards who dare not show their faces, sneered a swordsman carrying a broadsword nearly as tall as a man, his lips curling into a cold smile as he dismissed assassin Shinjini. Just as Shinjini was about to retort, the swordsman's true countenance appeared, forcing him to swallow his words. All that emerged were a few mumbled words between his teeth. Yi Zhonghong. Why are you calling him your grandpa? Yi Zhonghong retorted disdainfully in response to Shinjini's murderous glare, spitting a mouthful of saliva. Some of the independent demon cultivators widened their eyes. These were all well-known figures in the field. Could it really be Yi Zhonghong, famed for spilling blood within a span of one zhang? It said he is unbeatable in close combat. No half-step golden core expert would dare face him lightly. In addition to these three, quite a few notorious villains had also arrived. They were listed on government bounty notices with high rewards, yet no one dared to cross them for fear of being counterattacked. These villains clustered together, while others, feeling underpowered, kept their distance, too timid even to speak loudly. Suddenly, the arrival of 3 individuals drew everyone's attention. One walked in the middle, carrying a sword on his back. To his left was a man resembling a Confucian cultivator clutching a sage's words. To his right was a man with a brilliant smile on his face, looking almost mad. The 3 stood in silence, staring straight ahead without regard for the surrounding independent demon cultivators, their aura overwhelmingly powerful. Who are they? Do you know them? Not at all. They seem to have quite the background. The trio walked straight through the crowd to the very front. Finally, murmuring something about an immortal or the like, they opened a stone wall, pretending to retrieve tables and chairs from the other side, though in truth they had simply taken them out of a jade pendant. Chi Su Long and the others mused, they can open the stone wall, it seems they are from the demon sect. Once seated, the man carrying the sword coughed twice, drawing everyone's attention. In a clear voice he announced, my name is Lu Yang, and these 2 are Meng Jingzhou and Mangu. The 3 of us are the examiners for this selection. Now, we shall begin the immortal sect's selection process. Line up and state your personal information. Chapter 66, those with a dull mind are not recommended to join the demon sect. The examiners issued their orders, no matter whether you're Chi Su Long or Guojiang Long, you must stand obediently. If you anger the examiners, do you still expect to join the demon sect? Don't be fooled by your flashy exploits outside, the demon sect is on another level. The demon sect boasts a mystically profound sect leader and a legion of formidable members, while you all are on your own, with even the highest among you only reaching the late foundation establishment stage. The three examiners looked unfamiliar, none of those present had ever seen them. But that was understandable. After all, the demon sect is even more mysterious than the independent demon cultivators, and they never show themselves in public. It was perfectly normal that no one had seen them. Even though the notification time had been advanced by an hour, no one doubted its meaning. This, they agreed, must be one of the demon sect's tests. Those who arrive early clearly care about the demon sect, those who just scrape in aren't worthy of joining. Lu Yang crossed his legs, pulled out a pen and paper, and pointed at the first candidate, asking, "Speak up, why have you chosen to join the demon sect? What can you bring us by joining? What plans do you have for yourself, and what expectations do you have regarding Li Qian?" "Ah!" The first candidate was dumbfounded. He was struck speechless by the barrage of questions. Is this really the demon sect's entrance exam? Shouldn't they be asking about your cultivation, techniques, or the misdeeds you've committed? Seeing that the first candidate could not muster an answer, Lu Yang waved his hand impatiently. "What's that for? If you stutter before our questions, then when the authorities catch you later, won't you end up revealing all of the demon sect's secrets? You're eliminated, get out of here." The second candidate was the head of a small gang, a man who'd been in jail multiple times, who'd repeatedly found his gang and wife usurped by his underlings and then fought to reclaim them. He was a gang leader with considerable life experience. "I am Niu Mang, head of the Qinglong gang. I choose to join the demon sect because I seek a better future. I share many of the demon path's ideals with the demon sect, and I believe that once I join, we'll coexist harmoniously. After joining, I will work diligently at doing bad things, growing the demon sect into an even greater power and achieving new glory. My plan is simple, whatever the demon sect needs me to do, I will do without complaint. After all, only when the demon sect becomes strong can I become strong. The demon sect has given me a foothold, how could I ever expect it to provide me with money? It's I who should be offering tribute." Niu Mang became so animated that he even waved his fists, proclaiming his determination to overcome every difficulty and embrace a bright future. He spoke with practiced fervor. After all, that was how he had always run the Qinglong gang. "You're eliminated, go back." "Why?" Niu Mang protested, convinced his answer was perfect. Lu Yang's voice turned cold as he scolded, "What is the demon path?" "The demon path is about self-interest and ambition. How can someone who serves the demon sect without seeking any return possibly be a true demon path cultivator? As a member of the demon sect, you must always be plotting to usurp and rebel. If you don't even engage in internal strife, what's the point of calling it the demon sect? Besides, didn't you say you'd do whatever the demon sect requires? Now that the demon sect has decided to eliminate you, get lost." Niu Mang left with his head hanging low. Those behind him, having heard his fate, were astonished. This was the demon sect's philosophy indeed. The examiner's understanding of the demon path was profound. Next candidate called Meng Jingzhou. "I am Su Long, a cultivator at the foundation establishment stage," declared the next candidate, emphasizing his cultivation level in hopes of impressing the examiners. "Now speak, what misdeeds have you committed?" At this, Su Long began confidently, "I was taken by wolves from the mountains as a child and raised by them. When I was 10, I killed the wolf that had taken me using a bone knife. After coming down from the mountain, I lived off the land. If I wanted something, I'd just take it. This habit continued even in the city. If I lacked something, I'd snatch it. Then the constables started chasing me, and while I was robbing along the way, they chased me relentlessly. I was fast, no one could catch up with me. During my robberies, I tied people up as hostages, and I even casually killed a few who blocked my path." Su Long spoke with unrestrained pride. Yet, despite his many misdeeds, he wasn't deemed worthy of joining the demon sect. Meng Jingzhou shook his head. "Nowadays the orthodox forces are dominant, and we on the demon path must act with subtlety. Your style is too flamboyant. Sooner or later you'll fall by your own hand. Look at you, how many people know your name? Now look at us three, no one knows who we are. That is the difference. This isn't carelessness or leaving clues, it's a deliberate concealment, the wisdom of hiding in plain sight." Manga looked curiously at Lu Yang and Meng Jingzhou, wondering just how familiar they were with the ways of the demon path. Inspired by their words, Su Long realized he had been thinking about the demon path too simplistically and chose to withdraw on his own. "Now, I am Shinjini," introduced the next candidate, a pale-faced scholar with a smiling demeanor. After the previous rounds of questioning, he felt he clearly understood their methods. Noticing that Shinjini was dressed in the manner of a Confucian cultivator, just like himself, Manga happily asked a question he'd long wondered about, a question that even the fourth elder had failed to answer. Since Nyang and Ma mean the same thing, can I call a girl Aunt? Xianxia was stumped for quite a while. Despite his 40 years of life experience, he couldn't come up with a reply. He had assumed that the seemingly unremarkable examiner on the left would remain silent, but instead he was caught off guard by this blunt query. Rather than admitting he didn't know, Xianxia said, "I am a killer, not a Confucian cultivator." "A killer? Have you studied criminal law?" Lu Yang inquired with interest. "I've done some research," Xianxia replied modestly, though in truth he was quite knowledgeable in criminal law, since a killer must know how to evade it. "Then tell me, the criminal law defines the crime of intentional homicide as the intentional deprivation of life constitutes the crime. Then does suicide constitute intentional homicide?" Xianxia was hit with a second verbal blow. Seeing that he couldn't answer, Lu Yang disappointedly waved him off. "You can't even answer questions in your own field, go back." In just 5 minutes, Xianxia suffered the greatest setback of his life. Is this really the kind of question an ordinary person would ask? Could it be that only those with exceptionally agile minds are qualified to join the demon sect? This entrance exam was of utmost importance, so important that the Tua master had to personally preside over it to feel at ease. The Tua master had arrived half an hour early to prepare. On his way to the exam site, the Tua master observed many fierce-looking individuals gradually departing, muttering phrases like, "The interview is so difficult, joining the demon sect isn't easy, this is the true essence of the demon path," and "I'll come back in 30 years," as if they had undergone a baptism and achieved enlightenment. The Tua master fell into deep thought. Even before he arrived, he wondered who was presiding over the exam. Then he saw the trio of Lu Yang, Meng Jingzhou, and Mangu figures who dominated the scene with an air of authority. Chapter 68, We're all doing this for the sake of the demon sect. The Tua master, as the highest cultivated practitioner in the entire Tua and one who had even received systematic training at headquarters and studied the true essence of the demon path, had seen every sort of scene. Yet he had truly never witnessed a situation like this. If the administrators had shown consideration for his hardships and prepared in advance, he could understand and might even feel gratified. But what on earth are you three about? Who sprouted out of the dirt? The Tua master quickly realized the problem. His eyes, cold enough to kill, fixed on the 3 impostors posing as examiners whose scheme was to weed out their competitors in advance. "Now that is a clever tactic," he growled through gritted teeth. Still pretending to be examiners, the 3 continued their charade. Lu Yang, nonchalantly stretching his legs up onto a table, said, "You expect to pass the assessment without bribing us?" Next. The next candidate respectfully produced a spirit stone as a token of filial respect to the 3 examiners. Meng Jingzhou gave a nod and, noticing it was insufficient, asked, "Do you have any experience joining the demon sect?" "None," the candidate replied. "Oh, sorry, we don't want people with no experience." "You're out, go back," came the curt dismissal. The candidate was left speechless, as if the examiners had literally written on his face, "We don't hire you." Then, as if emerging like a phantom, the Tua master appeared behind the 3, his breath icy between his teeth and his golden core aura unmistakable. With a single slap, he sent all 3 crashing against the wall. "How dare you 3 impersonate examiners here?" he thundered. "Had I arrived any later, everyone would have fled." Lu Yang clambered down from the wall and quickly pleaded, "My lord, you've got the wrong idea. We're all wholeheartedly considering what's best for the demon sect." The Tua master, his anger momentarily giving way to a bitter laugh, demanded, "Then explain to me, how exactly are you considering the demon sect's interests?" "Think about it, my lord," Lu Yang began. "As demon path cultivators, we must be suspicious and inquisitive, never taking anyone's words at face value. Look at these people. Once the 3 of us sit here, they immediately believe we are the examiners, without a single doubt. Such gullibility makes them easy prey for con artists. If the orthodox had any clever ones among them, they'd fool each and every one of these idiots. Moreover, only orthodox cultivators accept what they're told without question. I even suspect that among these candidates there are undercover orthodox disciples. My lord, you must thoroughly verify their identities. We cannot allow orthodox infiltrators to slip in." At this, Lu Yang cast a wary glance around at the assembled candidates, his expression conveying, "There's surely an infiltrator among you." His words were heartfelt and appeared to be spoken solely for the Tua master's benefit. The Tua master's expression softened just a fraction. Then Meng Jingzhou, even more sincere than Lu Yang, spoke his true thoughts. "Furthermore, demon path cultivators are inherently selfish, thinking only of themselves. With so many people here for this assessment, naturally we must devise ways to reduce our competition. They're inferior in skill and easily deceived. Whose fault is that? It's only that they lack enough experience in deception." The Tua master's brows unfurled as he felt this was the genuine sentiment of the 3. Indeed, demon path cultivators are meant to be lawless and unscrupulous. When he first joined the demon sect, he spared no effort, using every trick in the book to gain the favor of the higher-ups and secure his current position. These three, with their tactics, surpass even his own in their audacity. Truly, they outdo the master. Manga, speaking in the simplest of terms, declared, "We sincerely want to join the demon sect. We promise not to do even a single good deed." The Tua master nodded lightly. Perhaps these three might also earn the favor of the higher-ups and elevate Yanjiang Tuo's reputation. Meanwhile, the surrounding candidates glared at Lu Yang and his two cohorts. Although they were all notorious figures on the demon path known as slackers, scoundrels, and cheats, none were as shameless or as ruthless in their deception as these three. Had the Tua master not been present, they would have all surged forward to tear these impostors apart. But the Tua master paid no heed to the petty thoughts of his underlings. How could a bunch of mediocrities possibly compare to the value these three brought? He then asked, "What is your cultivation level?" Lu Yang answered respectfully, "We're all at the early foundation establishment stage. The three of us brothers come from out of town. About a month ago, we arrived in Yanjiang County and, upon hearing that the demon sect was recruiting, we decided to give it a try. Seeing too many competitors, we devised this plan." "Not bad," the Tua master remarked, increasingly satisfied as he looked at the three. "What promising prospects, all thanks to his own achievements." He casually waved his hand. Ordinary early foundation establishment cultivators would have sustained injuries from such a gesture, yet these three were completely unscathed, proving that even at the early foundation establishment stage, they were truly outstanding. If these three perform adequately in the examination, promoting one of them to an administrator would not be out of the question. Those who had been eliminated by Lu Yang gradually returned, summoned by the Tua master upon his arrival. These discarded candidates harbored even more resentment toward Lu Yang. Lu Yang mused that if he were to kill these people now, they might very well turn into vengeful spirits. The Tua master then reopened the stone wall and addressed everyone, "Everyone, come on in." Behind the stone wall lay a vast, dark space with giant stones suspended and connected by chains, a truly magnificent sight. Lu Yang deduced that it was true. Yanjiang Tua resided within a Dongdian. The Tua master's attitude toward the three was markedly different from his treatment of the others. "Your ideas are good, you plan to squeeze out your competition, and your actions are commendable. But you've been mistaken from the start. Even if you manage to eliminate all others, or even if only the three of you take the examination, it does not guarantee that you'll pass." "What do you mean by that?" Lu Yang and his companions asked in confusion. The masked Tua master merely smiled without answering, stepping onto a floating stone to lead everyone to the largest of the suspended stones. This was a platform, its surface etched with intricate and magnificent patterns. At the four cardinal points stood 4 ancient stone pillars, and 11 administrators clad in black robes stood at the platform's edge, each performing their duties. "Sit apart from one another and relax your minds," the Tua master instructed. After everyone complied, the Tua master proceeded to the center of the platform. There, levitating in midair, was a block of emerald stone, its surface inscribed densely with mysterious symbols. The Tua master channeled his spiritual energy into the stone, and the formation at his feet began to rotate, expand, and multiply, swiftly covering the entire platform. The platform resembled a long dormant, ancient behemoth reawakening, its mysterious, archaic power transporting everyone into an unknown space. Within the pure white space stood shadowy figures, their faces filled with bewilderment, uncertain of what had just transpired. Whenever Lu Yang saw such a white space, he couldn't help but wonder if a tofu celestial had suddenly appeared among the crowd. Lu Yang soon noticed that neither Meng Jingzhou nor Manga was beside him, only unfamiliar faces surrounded him. "Brother, where are you from?" Lu Yang, ever affable, asked someone, though the man did not quite match Lu Yang's enthusiasm. Feeling that remaining silent wasn't appropriate, the man replied, "From Huangwei City." Lu Yang proceeded to ask several others, discovering that they hailed from different demon sect strongholds and had all been transported here via a giant formation. Lu Yang began to grasp the Tua master's meaning. This selection wasn't being conducted separately by each stronghold, but was organized by headquarters, with all independent demon path cultivators participating simultaneously. "This feeling is like an out-of-body experience, yet somehow different," Lu Yang murmured to himself. He suspected that the platform's teleportation did not convey one's true physical form, but rather something like one's consciousness. "It's rather interesting, wonder if senior sister can." Lu Yang halted his train of thought. If he were to remain in a purely mental state, perhaps the immortal sect would have a way to detect his thoughts. Caution is paramount. Suddenly, the entire space darkened, and a figure surrounded by a pale white halo materialized in midair. In a calm tone, the figure announced, "I am the deputy sect leader of the Immortal Sect. I have set 3 trials for you. Those who pass all 3 trials may join our sect." Chapter 69, The Correct Way to Pass. The crowd erupted in commotion. No one had expected the Immortal Sect to place such importance on this entrance selection that even the deputy sect leader would appear. The 4 major demon sect deputy leaders are among the few influential figures on the entire central continent. Seeing even one of them in person is considered a luxury. Lu Yang, however, remained unfazed. It was merely equivalent to meeting an elder from the Wendao sect, nothing he hadn't seen before. The state you currently experience is merely an idea. Your true selves remain at your original positions. Once the formal trial begins, all your cultivation and memories will vanish. Everyone will start from the same point. The sect leader clearly regarded this test as of utmost importance. In the struggle for the great era, what matters most is talent. If any of you possess a singular spirit root, a naturally immortal body, or inherent demonic seeds, then you will have the strength to contend with the orthodox. For this reason, he had commissioned the deputy sect leader to meticulously design 3 trials, with the goal of selecting only true prodigies. To prevent any cheating, the sect would employ its secret methods to erase one's cultivation and memories. Only then could a candidate's true abilities be revealed. Trial 1 is now officially underway. The standard for passing is to defeat the Liang Kingdom's army. No sooner had the deputy sect leader uttered these words than everyone felt as if the heavens and earth were spinning. They lost all sense of direction, and when they came to their senses, nothing at all was remembered. "Where's this place?" Manga wondered as he gradually regained consciousness, his head still swimming. Disheveled and holding a broken sword, with his armor stained all over with blood, Manga staggered a few steps. Just as he nearly fell, his personal guard rushed to steady him, saying, "General, hurry and mount your horse. Now is not the time for honor. The Liang Kingdom's army is nearly upon us." As he fled on horseback, memories related to this trial began flooding into Manga's mind. This place is the realm of 2 nations, Liang and Jin, eternal enemies, each determined to vanquish the other. "I am now the general of Jin, commanding the entire Jin army. I was careless this time and fell into the enemy's treachery. I must collect myself, rally once more, and defeat Liang." Manga had forgotten that this was all part of the trial. He only remembered that he was Jin's undefeated general and that he must defeat Liang to protect his nation. Along with the background memories, his combat experience rushed back as well. Now, Manga truly became the invincible general of Jin. Alas, while Manga was experienced, so too were the generals of Liang. In the ensuing battle, Manga suffered defeat after defeat. Highly esteemed within his army, his soldiers believed in him wholeheartedly, convinced that setbacks were only temporary and that General Manga would eventually lead them to victory. Yet Manga failed once again. Honest by nature and experienced in battle, he nonetheless couldn't effectively apply his skills in practice, repeatedly falling into the traps set by Liang's generals. Huff, huff, huff. Manga, in utter disarray, fled into a cave. This defeat was complete, a total loss with shattered armor and a broken sword. It was the greatest shame of his life. Outside, the miserable wind and rain mirrored the deepening sorrow of his heart. Thinking of the unwavering trust his soldiers had placed in him and the repeated blows of defeat, he lowered his gaze to the sword, now riddled with notches, and felt as though he wished to end his life. Once he was dead, there would be no more failures, no more Jin. Nothing left at all. Then, unexpectedly, his attention was caught by a spider. This spider was oddly formed, something Manga had never seen before. The spider was busy spinning its web. The wind and rain from outside battered the web repeatedly, tearing it apart several times. Each time the web was blown apart, the spider would start over without a hint of discouragement. Watching the spider fail again and again, only to try once more without giving up, Manga saw something of himself in the creature. "You will succeed," he murmured, his eyes fixed on the spider as hope gradually ignited within him. If even a spider could persist, then as a man, must his willpower be any less? At last, after countless failures, the spider successfully completed its web. In that moment, Manga leapt to his feet, his fighting spirit rekindled. If the spider could succeed, then so could he. His heart blazed with newfound determination. He would rally his forces and counterattack Liang. Manga happened to glance at the spider again, intending to thank it for its silent encouragement, only to see a praying mantis suddenly appear and kill the spider. Furious, Manga wanted to stomp the mantis to death, yet he recalled how similar the spider's plight was to his own, how, after achieving success, one might become complacent and forget the lurking dangers. Pondering this, he mused, yes, perseverance is important, but so is strategy. Striking when the enemy is off guard can yield the element of surprise. In the end, Manga managed to secure a series of minor victories that lulled Liang into complacency, and then, with his hidden troops launching a coordinated strike, he shattered the main force of the Liang army and achieved a complete victory. Manga had passed the trial. At the Immortal Sect headquarters, a calm display on the water surface showed the images of everyone's performance in Trial 1. The deputy sect leader observed their actions and offered his evaluations. So, are there any promising prospects? As the space warped, the sect leader appeared. Your performance in this first trial was far from easy. In the face of repeated failures, you not only learned the value of persistence from the spider, but also grasped the lesson of seizing the moment from the praying mantis. The deputy sect leader shook his head. This is essential. Under the oppression of the orthodox, when we demon path practitioners suffer continuous setbacks, some within our ranks are already on the verge of giving up. Our experiences with Jin are so similar. I must use this trial to select disciples with steadfast willpower and nurture them into talents to counter the orthodox. Countering the orthodox cannot rely on willpower alone, one must also possess skill. If you fail to learn techniques from both the spider and the praying mantis, how can you possibly achieve victory? The sect leader nodded. Excellent, you've spoken well. That is precisely why I entrusted you with organizing the selection. The outstanding disciples chosen here will be nurtured as our reserve force against the orthodox. Pointing to one of the displayed images, the deputy sect leader remarked, I am particularly impressed with this one, Mango. His method of passing the trial perfectly aligns with my own ideals. This one is destined for greatness. The sect leader glanced at Manga's image and felt rather pleased. Let's see how the others fared. Standing side by side, the sect leader and his deputy watched the others for a while. Suddenly, the sect leader asked, do you think it's possible that there might be alternative ways to pass? The deputy sect leader immediately dismissed the idea with firm certainty, absolutely not. This first trial is based on a segment I extracted from history. Liang and Jin were but a corner of chaos in the world 100,000 years ago when cultivators were far fewer in number and neither nation boasted many of them. I have elaborated on that foundation to the greatest extent possible to ensure authenticity. Immortal Sect had invested vast resources to extract that historical segment, and the deputy's heart ached at the cost. Historically, the Jin general attained enlightenment in a cave and defeated the Liang army. That was nothing short of miraculous. I refuse to believe there is any other method. The sect leader nodded. He too had thought so. His earlier question had merely been to break the silence and spark discussion. Then they turned their attention to the methods employed by Meng Jingzhou and Lu Yang. Chapter 70, The Wrong Way to Pass. The Jin army had suffered so many defeats that even someone like Meng Jingzhou had become despondent, convinced that victory was impossible. Can I really win? Meng Jingzhou asked himself in the cave, the answer to his question so bitter it was almost unspeakable. Spider. He noticed a spider diligently spinning its web. The spider repeatedly failed and tried again. Each failure and every attempt left him profoundly moved. If a spider can fight on despite repeated setbacks, could I be any less resilient? Inspired by the spider's perseverance, Meng Jingzhou resolved to regroup and wage another battle against the Liang army. Sure, the Liang army is stronger than ours, but the gap isn't insurmountable. How can I simply give up after a few failures? If I quit, what will become of Jin? I believe that if I plan my tactics well this time, victory is still within reach. Clenching his fists, he already formulated a new strategy in his heart. After several defeats, he had grown familiar with the Liang general's methods. Their repeated victories had inflated their confidence, a psychological edge he planned to exploit. He would feign defeat and make a hasty, disorderly retreat to lure the Liang forces into a narrow gorge, then counterattack by encircling them. This time, he vowed he would catch them completely off guard and live up to the expectations of the Jin people. Thank you for the guidance, Meng Jingzhou said, cupping his fists in gratitude toward the spider. Without the spider's inadvertent lesson, he was sure he would have been crushed, with victory forever beyond his grasp. Inside the cave, swarming with mosquitoes and insects, Meng Jingzhou, seeking to show his appreciation, caught a small insect and placed it beside the spider. But the spider, seemingly unable to comprehend his gesture and mistaking him for an enemy, bit him instead. Ah, it's a venomous spider. Meng Jingzhou's head spun and he fainted. It is unclear how long he was unconscious, perhaps a few minutes or maybe a dozen, but when he awoke, he felt his body filled with newfound strength. What's happening to me? He discovered that his body had undergone a transformation. His vision, hearing, and perception had all become sharper, and his movements were extraordinarily agile, as if he'd been reborn. Almost unconsciously, his right hand began to move, his middle and ring fingers curled, and strands of white silk shot forth from his wrist. What in the world is this? The white strands adhered to the wall. Pulling at them, Meng Jingzhou found them to be incredibly tough. They looked just like spider silk. He pressed both hands against the wall in amazement, discovering that his hands could stick to his arms, scaling walls as easily as if he were a spider. I remember being bitten by a spider. Wait, where's the spider? When he finally found it, the spider had already been killed by a praying mantis. In a fit of vengeance, Meng Jingzhou stomped the mantis to death, avenging the fallen spider. He resolved to carry on the spider's legacy, reorganize his troops, and face the Liang army once more. On the eve of the decisive battle, donning his stealth attire and bolstered by his newly acquired power, he set out alone on a decapitation mission and succeeded in beheading the Liang general. The Liang general was so stunned. After all, as fellow generals, shouldn't they be destined to clash in a final, do-or-die confrontation? Instead, Meng Jingzhou had skipped straight to the end, killing a general with another general. Although the Liang general had elite cultivators as bodyguards, none were as nimble as Meng Jingzhou. He managed to slay the Liang general. A rare military genius, the Liang general's death left his forces leaderless. With no one to command the main force, Meng Jingzhou led the Jin army to shatter the Liang troops. Meng Jingzhou had passed the trial. At the Immortal Sect headquarters, the sect leader and the deputy sect leader reviewed Meng Jingzhou's method of passing the trial in silence for a long time. A second method of passing had indeed emerged. The sect leader massaged his brow and mused, "What is the deal with that spider? How can a single bite bestow a person with the spider's abilities? Could it be that if I were bitten just once by a spider, I too might transform?" The deputy sect leader was equally baffled. After a moment of contemplation, he retrieved a classic text from his storage ring and pointed to a passage. "Look here, ancient records state that, on the central continent, there once existed a peculiar spider. Its strength was no greater than that of an ordinary spider, and it never bit people. Yet anyone bitten by it would undergo bodily mutations. This type of spider had gone extinct tens of thousands of years ago." The deputy explained logically, "The conflict between Jin and Liang dates back 100,000 years, and we are perfectly recreating that historical scenario. So theoretically, the appearance of such an extraordinary spider in this cave is possible." The sect leader nodded. It seems that this Meng Jingzhou not only possesses determination and a quick mind, but his luck is also extraordinary. When it comes to luck, which is as elusive as mist, perhaps only the legendary art of qi divination can truly measure one's fortune. Yet, other evidence also spoke for him. Among all the candidates, he alone had been bitten by the spider and mutated, indicating that his fate was anything but ordinary. Those with exceptional fortune are said to progress without hindrance and achieve greatness in the future. Let's see how the others do. I refuse to believe there's a third way to pass. Lu Yang watched the spider endlessly spinning its web only to fail repeatedly and fell into deep thought. If a spider's web can capture its prey, then why does waiting by a tree stump fail? Both involve staying in one place and waiting for the prey to come. What's the difference? Is it because an insect, having no brain, mindlessly crashes into the web, while a rabbit is smarter and avoids trees? If insects have no brains, then spiders wouldn't have brains either. So is the spider's endless cycle of failure and reweaving a sign of resolute willpower, or just the stubborn persistence of a fool? Even rabbits know not to crash into trees, so why do some people refuse to change direction even when hitting a wall repeatedly? Lu Yang's mind wandered, contemplating far-reaching ideas. After his own failures, he hadn't given up. Instead, he sheltered in the cave from the rain, using the time to ponder strategies to overcome his enemies. Now, watching the spider rebuild its web, he considered many seemingly profound issues that, in reality, were rather trivial. Suddenly, a praying mantis appeared. Seizing the moment when the spider was unguarded, it attacked. The spider, using its web to fight back valiantly, clashed fiercely with the nimble and agile mantis. After several rounds, the mantis emerged victorious, killing the spider. Witnessing this, Lu Yang stood, thoughtful, and studied the mantis's movements. He noted how the mantis masterfully used its two agile forearms and how its footwork allowed it to leap in all directions with remarkable fluidity. Imagine yourself as a praying mantis. Lu Yang muttered to himself. He felt that he had learned something similar before and that he possessed a natural talent in this regard. Soon, Lu Yang transformed himself into a human embodiment of a praying mantis, balancing softness with strength, swift and courageous, such that any opponent would fall before his punches. Historically, the Jin general was at the mid-qi condensation stage, and Lu Yang, having inherited that general's cultivation, was also at mid-qi condensation. In the end, he transformed his body outright into that of a giant praying mantis. His forearms struck out rapidly, and with a single punch, he shattered the cave structure. Liu Yang marveled, so this is the legendary mantis fist spoken of in martial circles, a power so great that ordinary people can't learn it. He then simplified the techniques of mantis fist, making them easy to learn and promoted them widely within the army. As a result, the fighting strength of the Jin army soon surpassed that of Liang. Without needing elaborate schemes, they simply overwhelmed the enemy. Liu Yang had passed the trial. Whoever passed like that, the deputy sect leader roared in anger. That concludes today's epic story from Xianxia Webnovel Audio. If you found the journey as thrilling as we did, please hit like, subscribe to our channel, and enable notifications for more mystical adventures. We're excited to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below about your favorite part. See you in the next chapter.